We're live. We're live.
We're live? Nothing?
What's your cue?
We're live.
Wow. Good job.
Well, everybody, welcome to another episode of Behind the Scenes at Inspiration 9.
Yes. Do you know what episode number we are at, Pastor Brian?
We are probably at episode number 10.
Yes.
And we are in a different location today.
Yeah.
Do you know
I'm
why?
not really sure what all of the meaning of the different location is, but nonetheless, we are sitting in a different room.
Pastor Sarah, do you know why we're in a different location?
Well, I'm thinking that the office is probably in like organization mode.
Well, it is, but no, that's not why we're in a different mode.
Is it lighting?
Nope.
Is it because the sound's upstairs? The sound card? Okay, perfect.
It's because Larry's on vacation, and
Yeah.
so Monday nights we have to use the streaming stuff here at our house
Yes.
to be able to stream prayer. And so I brought it upstairs so that we could stream prayer from upstairs the way we normally do.
Yeah.
And rather than bringing it back downstairs and then back upstairs and then back downstairs and then back upstairs,
You just said it's upstairs today.
it's upstairs for 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's fine. I do feel like I can breathe a little bit more up here.
Yeah,
Like
less,
it's not.
we're not in a room. We're
Usually
just,
after
like-
the podcast, we sit and talk, and then I'm just like, okay, I need to get out of here. I can't.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
claustrophobic.
you're normally like in the corner.
Yeah, and then Pastor Brian's very happy to just continue talking. And I'm like,
Yeah.
And one
Distance.
of these, and one
I
of
gotta
these
get out of
days, we will officially set something up in an area that can just be
Set up
set
forever.
up
Yeah.
and not have
Like
to
a
kind of
studio
get,
situation.
Pre-prepped every week.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of our original goal.
When we
10
move into $1
episodes
million
ago.
mansion, how about?
Yeah, how about? Or we could just get rid of the hot tub room and make it a podcast room. No. Or expand the hot tub room and have it a studio
Yes.
and a hot tub room.
Yeah, but you
Just,
can't have recording
add on
equipment.
another,
Only
portion
the
to
best
house.
recorders have hot tubs in their studios.
Your poor equipment.
Yeah.
It
So,
would die.
anyways, what do we got going on today?
Well, I had a couple things I wanted to talk about
Okay.
now, but I'm wondering which one I should start with. Well, we can start with my recent development.
Recent developments.
Yes. So, Violet had a birthday last week.
Is that her
And-
cameo?
Yeah, that's her cameo. She's the only name I'm allowed to say, so
Yeah.
I'm going to say her name. So I bought her a few things for her birthday, but then she came over and saw these things on the counter and got really excited thinking I had purchased them for myself. So she was like, "Oh, Sarah, you bought this? Like, I've been wanting one." And I was like, "Right. Yeah, I bought that." But I didn't, and she fully knew it was for her birthday. So then I wanted to get her something else to add to it so that there was a little bit of a surprise. So I ended up buying her a Tamagotchi. You guys know what those are?
Can I just back up
Yes.
for a quick moment here?
Okay.
Can I just say something?
How
Rosie?
did you end up like leaving the gift out in the open?
Because I
Somebody
purchased it like a
couldn't-
month and a half before her birthday. And I thought, you know what, I'll leave it on the island and then I'll wrap it closer to the day. And I was fully aware she was coming over. It wasn't a surprise. And it was on the island and it's just become like a staple on the island because it had been there for like a month and a half. And anyway, and then they weren't small, they were big. So
Okay.
it was just the world's biggest oversight.
Yeah, it just seems like an odd thing, like normally I get a birthday gift. I don't normally just set it on the, the middle island, to the household when you walk in the front door and say, "Hey, everybody."
Well, I don't usually have a lot of people over.
Are you saying that because of what I left what I left on the table the other day? Like I feel like that
What
was
did you
directed
leave?
towards
I don't even know. What did you leave on the table the other day?
So Violet and me went shopping the other day, and we're just looking through like thrift stores, and I found some Amy Grant albums.
Oh, I heard this story.
So I said to Violet, when you get home, put those in your bedroom so that Dad doesn't see them because I'm going to give them to him for Christmas. And so she's like, okay, yeah. So then I come home just doing stuff, and then all of a sudden I look over at the corner of the table.
Like the downstairs table?
No, right here on the corner of the upstairs, the dining room table.
That's amazing.
And I see these records on the table, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need Brian to leave the room so I can get these out of here. Because if I touch them now, he's going to ask me what that is. And then he's going to be like looking through them. Oh, I had this album. I had this album. And then anyways, so I'm trying to like wait for him to leave the room. He doesn't leave the room. And then he walks over here and he goes, oh, what's this? Oh, I had this album. I had this album.
That's amazing.
Well,
Anyways,
the story
Merry
that I
Christmas.
had heard about that, was that they were a birthday gift for another individual. Is kind of what I thought was happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, but apparently
I guess that's not.
that's not what's happening.
Womp.
Well, so nonetheless,
Okay,
it was
go
not
back
a
to-
directed.
Go back to Pastor Sarah's gifts.
thing where she left something out on the counter.
She,
nonetheless.
Yeah.
okay.
By the
So
way,
the
I don't
thing
know
is,
if you can hear, but I can definitely hear your headphones coming through at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
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 So, I don't even know where I was in the story.
So you
were
bought a
talking about how you bought
Tamagotchi.
some-
World's biggest tangent. Okay, so so I bought her a Tamagotchi. And I got jealous. So I bought myself a Tamagotchi. So I wasn't sure how she would feel about it because I don't know if I've ever even talked to her about them. And if you don't know what they are, I have it in my hand. This is it.
That's the thing that's been making a lot of noise
Well,
constantly.
mine
the last week.
mine can be muted. Mine can be muted.
Okay.
So you only have to do three or four actions. You have to make sure that it's happy, it's healthy, like it's not hungry, and that it's happy, and that there's no poop or it's not sick.
Is
Okay,
it-
so how old is yours now?
Well, that's what I was gonna say. So there's two options when you're feeding it, and so what mine was doing, I would feed it, and it would be 4 out of the 5 hearts satisfied. Like it would say hungry, but it was only 4 out of the 5 hearts. Hold on, let me just finish my story. and then I would give it the little hamburger, and then it wouldn't want to eat the hamburger anymore, but it would still be hungry. And there's a little cake option, so then I would give it a piece of cake, and then it would be full. And I always want to do full 5 hearts because it bothers me when it's just 1 heart empty.
yeah.
And my stinking Tamagotchi has died twice in the week that I've had it. And
So, but wait, like, can I ask this? How many meals did you feed your little baby
I don't
compared to
know.
how many pieces of cake you fed your baby?
No. The cake was like, literally was that instance when it was the 4 hearts and I just wanted that 5th heart full. It would deny the burger, wouldn't eat the burger, but that's the only way to feed it. So then I'd be like, okay, who wants a piece of cake? So then I'd give it a piece of cake, and then it would be fine.
You know, what I wanted to add to this conversation
Okay.
is really relevant.
Okay.
People don't know what you guys are talking about.
Well, that's what I'm trying to explain.
No, but what I think was relevant for people to know is that how do you say this word again?
Tamagotchi.
Is a digital pet.
It's a digital egg.
Egg.
Yes.
Okay,
And
so you have to keep it alive.
this is the 90s were truly the pinnacle of the digital age.
I literally remember you having
I had probably 9.
just like
On
keychains
my
just
belt.
hanging on.
These
Yeah.
things?
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
walk and it would sound like a Western man with like my, what are those things called?
Keys.
How would you
Not-
do anything in your life?
Boots
Because
and
like
saddle. What are those things called in the end of your ankles that you used to kick into the
Spurs?
side of the spurs? It would be like, then I'd come walking in. Yeah, I had 9 of them. And I was a very faithful child. So I would make sure they would never die.
this reminds me of when you're in high school and you have those babies that you have to take home for a week.
That was a
my
horrible week.
Baby, think it over.
Baby, think it over.
Yeah.
Well, this is pretty well the same thing because it's just like
No,
every
it's
5
not.
minutes you hear beep 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 beep.
It's not 5 minutes.
Listen, I had baby think it
It's
over.
about an hour and a half. I've timed it.
I had baby think it over twice. The first time, the baby was like barely made a peep. It was the greatest thing ever. I was just so excited to be a mom after that. Like, this is like being a mom is gonna be the greatest thing ever. And so I asked for it a second time, and the second time screamed nonstop.
No.
I didn't like the
Unreal.
one night I woke up in the middle.
The meter on you.
Yeah, I woke up in the middle of the night and the baby was naked on the bed with a diaper tab stuck to the forehead, and I'm like, oh no, what did I do? Anyways, fast forward to when I actually had kids. I ended up passing both times, by the way.
Nice.
But fast forward to when I actually had kids, and my first baby was like a dream, a breeze, and she never cried. She was always happy, singing in her crib when in the morning, and just like perfect baby. And then I had my second baby, and he screamed nonstop. Woke up in the middle of the night with a diaper taped to it. No, I'm just kidding.
That's awesome.
He screamed non-stop for 11 months.
Yes, he did.
But
Anyways,
let's
go
get
back to the
her actual story.
never
Sorry
gonna
I
get through
interrupted
the story.
you. I know I interrupted you, but I was just like, if I'm sitting here listening to this, I'm like, people have no idea that you're talking
So it's
about
a
digital pet.
digital egg, and this
Yes.
thing, I think the maximum it lives is like 25 Tamagotchi years. So it's probably like 2 or 3 months. So I used to have a bunch of them. Like I had all of them. I don't know why. I just loved these things. And so when I got one for Violet, I wanted one for myself, thinking that, I was a child, I was so good at taking care of them.
So when you were younger, you didn't realize that like feeding them cake would
That's literally what I used to
kill
do.
them?
But it's a different age, it's a different year.
You can't
So,
just eat cake and
This is how I
survive.
used to do. No, because it wasn't always just cake. It was burger, and then like I said, there was 4 hearts, and then I would just give it one piece of cake.
You need a well-balanced diet.
But I mean, it's just all the option is burger. I don't think you're understanding. It's burger or cake. It's not like I was trying to
Speaking
kill
of
my
burgers,
pets.
we're gonna have burgers for dinner.
Nice.
Can I have can I throw up something interesting? I think it was Shane or something posted. He goes, I happen to like hamburger meat.
No,
better
I
than
Steak.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can't get into this because we don't have the time for this. But I agree with Shane. I think
Really?
I like steak is a nice treat, but I wouldn't want to have a meal with steak in it like more than once a month.
I'm thinking you probably haven't had good steak.
No,
then.
I have. I love steak. Like I really do. But a lot of the foods that I eat that have hamburger meat in them, I like if someone said, "Do you want a homemade sauce with meat and spaghetti, or do you want a really good steak?" And I would say, I don't like spaghetti with meat sauce.
Would you like taco or?
I would like tacos.
Would you like hamburger
An actual
helper?
burger.
Yeah. So I think that there's like I love steak, and I'll take a medium rare steak if I'm going out somewhere that makes really good steak. But if my day-to-day life, if someone said, "Oh, I was thinking about having steak. Do you want steak?" I'd probably be like,
What about you?
"Sure."
I prefer steak.
Over hamburger meat?
Yes, I get grossed out by meat.
Okay, yeah. Like I get that.
I love meat. Like I'm not a vegetarian by any means, but
Chicken grosses me
I'm so grossed out by meat. It's unreal.
Yeah, it's a difficult experience often trying to get meat at the grocery store.
I can't buy it.
Because she can't look at it.
No, it's gross.
And I remember there was like one season kind of in our lives where I had stocked up like, grocery shopping over, years kind of and got all kinds of meat into the freezer. And then Pastor Sherry here, took over the shopping for the next, year or whatever it was. And all of a sudden I walked into the freezer one day and it dawned on me, I'm like, we have no meat left in this house. And the reason is that she couldn't come to actually going to the meat area and picking it up and putting it in the cart. And I was like, we have to make a change here.
So I was like, yeah, you go ahead, buy whatever meat. I will cook the meat, no problem. But I cannot buy it and handle it beforehand. I can't touch it.
I hope we don't ever get to this point in life where we have to kill our own animals and prep them, because I don't know if Pastor Sherry's going to do.
We
some
would
of that
become a
stuff.
vegetarian, except for I don't really eat much for vegetables.
I honestly don't. I don't purchase meat very much. Like
No.
I'm a single person, so if I make a meal with meat in it, then I'll be eating that meal for the next 3 days, and I
Yeah.
hate that. So I'm like a small portion person. Like
Yeah.
I don't like to eat the same thing every single day.
Yeah.
So that's why.
And to jump in on the hamburger versus meat, I agree that there's a lot of really good burgers that you can eat and a lot of different
I love
varieties of
steak.
meals with hamburger meat in them. So
Yeah.
I guess it's just kind of like the content of how it's done, because like a steak in itself is just a steak.
Yeah.
And if I was just having hamburger meat by itself as hamburger meat, like meatloaf, I would pick the steak
meatloaf.
every single day.
I love
over
meatloaf.
top of
Meatloaf
that,
is good.
because it's just not the same thing. So I think sometimes it comes down psychologically as to how are you
Preparing it.
the meat
Yeah.
into whatever
Oh,
course that it
so
goes
what you're
along with.
saying is that preparation is key, right?
Nice.
Yes. Now, by the way, there was a I think it's Donald Trump who likes ketchup on his steak.
Oh.
And people give him a hard time about that all the time. They're just like, how do you ruin a steak by putting ketchup on
Listen,
it?
when you have that much money, you can do whatever you want. Who cares?
And maybe he's not eating the good steak.
I mean, I'm sure he probably is.
I doubt that, but that's, I don't like ketchup on anything at all.
He
but-
was the president of the United States. No?
You're funny.
What shall we do with it?
Rough.
All right,
Let's move on.
Okay, so back to the Tamagotchi.
No, I'm done with talking
All
about
right,
it.
we're done with Tamagotchis.
Basically,
Okay, so
So what's the moral of the story? Don't get these, because every
no, I'm committed to this thing.
short period of time, all you're doing is pushing buttons and listening to beeping.
Mine can be muted.
I had to babysit on Friday.
Yeah, I had Shane babysit mine on Sunday. And I only said his name because you said it already, so
I didn't say it.
not you.
He said it.
I know.
Yeah.
That's why I said you.
Yeah.
So he babysat it during church on Sunday because I was like, it's not going to die again. So I'm like, if it poops, clean it up. And that's all I told him to do.
If it poops.
Because he's like, how do I control
Is that the
this
way we are
thing?
as parents? If
I'm
it
like,
poops,
he's
clean it
practically
up.
an engineer. And he's like, I'm like, Shane, there's 3 buttons. You can figure it out. It's like, I don't know how to control it. Figure it out.
I couldn't.
So he did. And then, but then by the time I got back to it, it was starved and very unhappy. And I was very mad. And he's like, you only told me to clean its poop. So anyway,
Okay.
that's where we're at with that. But I wanted to segue that conversation. It didn't need to be that long, but it was. Into the
Anything we
conversation.
talk about will always be long.
I know. It's because there's tangents and rabbit trails.
Yeah.
That's part of everyday life behind the scenes at I-9.
Truly. What I wanted to talk about was the fact that, yes, you pointed out, as a child, I owned a lot of Tamagotchis. And that is a thing about me that if I like something, I'm obsessed with it. And that's my entire personality. Tamagotchis.
So
that's
who do
something
you
else.
think is more obsessive?
Some-
You or Pastor Sherry?
No, that's not the question. We're not getting
Yeah.
into that. We don't have time for that.
Next time.
That's actually a fairly legitimate question.
I don't. Sure.
It's not.
What?
So the question was not that. The question was, if you were to go back to your, pick whatever age you desire.
Okay.
I'm thinking 10-year-old self,
10-year-old self.
and you had to give yourself maybe 2 sentences of encouragement, like a little, not a spoiler into the future, but just a little bit of advice. Like if you could travel back into time and say, grab yourself by the shoulders and say, hey, dummy, this. What would be the things, maybe don't call yourself a dummy. What would be the thing that you would feel like you would want to say to help their life be easier? Does that make sense?
Okay.
So are you going first?
No.
Oh.
I have to think about this one for a moment.
Oh, okay. Pastor Sarah, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I was thinking about this because I think that always, in life, my limitation would be about what I think people think about me. And it's just the overthinking is real. And it's always you get stuck in the same lies and things that just get tripped up. So I think I would encourage myself to stay more focused on where I'm at in the present day and to stay out of my head.
Yeah.
Because it would keep things lighter. I know when I was 10, I was already starting to dabble into that mentality of already thinking. It's almost I don't know if you do this. I don't know if men do this at all, but it's almost like you have conversations with them in your head about you. You know, like it's like you finish the blanks, right?
The scenario of what the conversation would be like.
Yeah. And I think that has messed a lot of relationships up for me in the past and made things more complicated than they needed to be.
Okay.
And I wouldn't tell myself about church or what I was doing with schooling or anything like that. Like when I was 10, I wanted to be an animator at Disney World. You know, I had these big ideations, and I think that it's good that she was like that, because I think it made me want to see things differently. And like, even I was thinking as I was like putting the set together this last week, I'm like, I love that I thought that way as a child, because it made me curious in the way that I approach just the way that I create things, right? And I think that really formed me. So I wouldn't want to change anything about myself. I think I would just want to let myself know, like, your head is not a safe place to live.
Yeah.
Like, get out of your head and just keep your eyes on what's going on today. And don't think, because that's always the thing. I'm always thinking about the next thing and tomorrow. And it's like, just be here today and stay out of your head.
It's good.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of long, but that would be the thing.
No, that's good.
Yeah. I think there's two things that I would probably say to myself. Number one being, don't let intimidation push you around. Because I think that for a while, I felt intimidated by things or people, and just kind of lived my life according to what other people's expectations were of those who were kind of more intimidating.
Yeah.
And just realizing that, like, it's like each individual, everybody's their own person. And so there's no need to be intimidated by things. And you are who you are and who God created you to be. And I think that the second thing, like kind of leading into that, would just be the things that are hard that you feel like you would never be able to attain. Don't put those limitations on yourself, because whatever you put your hand to do, and with God's help, like, you can accomplish so much. And if the only limitation is your brain saying, you can't do this, so don't put a lid on yourself.
I don't really know what the real answer would be for me for this here. You know, I think the obvious.
I feel like I could answer for you.
Mary, Sherry,
well, maybe you guys
Price.
can maybe throw something
Mary,
in there.
Sherry, and
Well,
Frank.
yeah, so that, you know, I'm assuming you're going back and saying, you know, you're not going back to your younger self to say, hey, who you're going to marry.
No.
Scenario. You're talking about what advice would you give yourself in life, right?
You know, if you've ever seen any time travel movies or anything like that, you're not allowed to give yourself spoilers.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
it would
you
be nice to
can-
probably have went back and given my younger self, you know, some stock tips or something.
I was gonna say, you would be like, don't go to this day on this, don't go here on this day.
Or be here on this
Or
day.
buy some stock in this company.
Epstein
on
didn't
this
kill
day.
himself. It's like, the Lions will never win. I'm sorry.
So what advice do you think that I would give my younger self?
I think, just based on the growth, like, I mean, I've been in and out of your life for the last 30 plus years. I think I would say to yourself, don't take life so seriously, and you're gonna learn how people work. I think I would tell yourself, because I remember you're at a much different place now. But even like 10 years ago, I remember having a conversation with you. Hopefully this is okay, I'm saying this, where you said that you miss laughing, that you wished you laughed more, and you do. Like, you laugh a lot more now than even 10 years ago.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I had a conversation with someone, not you, someone outside of the church, that said that if I have a day where I laugh, I think it's a good day. And I think that for you, laughing is important.
Yeah.
And so I think that as a 10-year-old, I don't know what you were like, but you probably laughed a lot. So I would say it'd be encouraging to tell yourself just to keep laughing.
Yeah, and I mean, that was kind of part of what I was thinking along that lines. It was almost like that process of learn how to enjoy the journey, not the destination. The destinations, you know, because I did find, I said that as I got older and the more responsibilities that I had in life, the less, yes, I seem to just enjoy the everyday part of life.
Yeah.
And yes, And yeah, I remember like when we were younger, everything was a joke, everything was fun,
Yeah.
and those who do know me, I still like to joke around and have
Yes.
fun. Although Pastor Sherry doesn't really appreciate my
She does.
my
I
sense of
often wake
humor
up
as
with
much
dirty
as-
socks under my pillow.
She does.
And I laugh.
Well, what would
at
you
it.
What would
Ha
you
ha.
rather? Would you rather to marry like the most
Listen.
beige man you've ever met?
I will be really sad if there ever comes a day where I don't wake up and
With
find
dirty
socks
socks.
under my pillow.
Yes.
That will be a very
That's gonna
weird
make me
day.
She
laugh.
also
I think
doesn't,
that.
like it when there's any type of a joke that kind of centers around something that I'm making fun of her either, which
But that's
is
usually
also
like
something that we used to do a lot.
Yeah.
And, it was just part of, your friends and you made fun of the circumstances that you're all in. And it's not like we were, just something specific. It was just, that was just the way
I
it was.
remember this one time. I have a piece of advice for you, by the way, so don't let me forget
okay.
to your younger self. But I remember when I don't know if we were first dating or if we were first married. I feel like we were first dating, and we went to your brother's house, and it was just you, your brothers, your dad, and me. And we had dinner. And I don't know if you remember this, but anyways, we're all kind of this is my very first interaction. So we must have been dating. My very first interaction with everybody, like your side of the family, like the boys.
Okay.
And just kind of in a casual setting, like we're just having dinner and whatever. And so somehow we got on the conversation of grinding teeth. And so I was like, I grind my teeth all the time, thinking that it was like no big deal. And then all of you guys busted out laughing. You're like, you have a parasite. Do you remember this?
What?
I was mortified because I'm like, but you guys were like, you must have had like an inside joke or something like that about it before, and joking about like, if you are hearing something that if you grind your teeth, you have a parasite. And so then I happened to say that I grind my teeth, and then they were all laughing.
Oh,
and
boy.
Anyways, and I'm just like, this was my very first interaction. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like they all think that I'm sick and dying.
Who will take me as a pride now? I have a parasite.
Well.
Now I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was hilarious. But at the time, I did not find it funny. But now I look back and I think that was actually kind of funny. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, so I would think that would definitely be part of it. Yeah, it's definitely just enjoy life
Yeah.
more, and I do think that I've come to
You have.
to appreciate and enjoy my life more recently. But I do think it was sad, right? Because it was like you went through kind of having this joy, this happiness, and then it was just kind of like it just kind of depleted out of your life a lot more with just responsibility.
Yeah.
And my life is full of responsibility. So learning how to do that type,
Well, and I think like
do things that I do that I know that just I enjoy, right? Like I like going on vacation.
yes, he does.
There's certain things that I like to.
You like to spend time with your family.
Family.
You
I
like to go
play some
golfing with the
video
boys.
games,
He
I
likes
like
to go for bike
out.
He
rides.
loves to go for bike rides.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Well, yeah.
And I really loved playing sports a lot growing up too. Recently, I haven't done as much of that activity.
You've been golfing a lot.
That's
That's a
yeah, it's
sport.
not as much of a sport.
It's a your age
as
sport
what
now.
It's a sport for men of your caliber, of your experience,
yeah.
of
It's-
your
it's
hair
what
color.
you do after
You've
you play
moved up
sports.
the ladder to golfing.
Someone called it fall ball the other day, and I hate that so much.
I don't like that either.
I hate that a lot.
So what was going to be your advice to me, the younger me?
My advice to your younger you would be it's worth the investment. Right? That not to give up. Because I think one of the things that you can often feel roadblocked by is when you're just pouring into people and then all of a sudden they kind of just like disappear out of your life and you feel like, was it worth the investment? Did it mean anything? Did anything I say or do for them or in their life mean anything?
Yeah.
And I stand back and I watch people's lives being changed and I see you say to yourself, I could have done more.
Yeah.
And so I think just telling your younger self that no matter what, it's worth the investment, I think would be beneficial for you.
Yeah. And I think there's like a not a facade, but you have a degree of carrying yourself in a way that I think people think that you're not
Nothing.
fazed by anything.
Yeah, you're untouchable.
But
I
it's
feel
like,
you-
but it's like stuff like this, like if I'm going through something, I'm struggling, like he'll call me often and like be like, okay, let's fix this. We got to get you out of this. And like, we got to, like he'll just think about it the entire time. And it's like, you can't help me, leave me alone. but it's like, I think that that's really good advice, because that's something that like, and if people are asking about you, regardless if it's Pastor Brian or not, usually that means they care about you. So plot twist.
Yeah, it's true.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's good.
Which is interesting. It's like sometimes even people who, hate you inquire about you or ask other people about you, which reveals that they actually care about
Yeah.
what you think or where you're at or what
Yeah.
you're doing. They're thinking about you.
They're
You
thinking.
occupy real estate in their minds.
The younger you story.
The younger what?
The younger
Younger
you
you.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you do?
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. I like that.
It's fun. That was like a little fun,
Yeah.
it was brought on
Throwback,
because, wow, now the hiccups. Excuse me.
Oh no.
I know. Sorry.
Somebody get her a glass of water.
It doesn't work. It was brought on because we were talking last week about,
Do wake up.
you messed me up.
Last week we were talking about something.
That brought.
Oh, we were
us
talking
for-
about our lives as children in the church.
Oh yeah.
And, we were all basically raised and bred in the same environment, right? And so how we came out of that, and now we are where we are today. And I remember there was one day where we lived in Woodsley, like rural Woodsley.
Like there was nobody around.
Yeah. And,
What did you do for fun? in Woodson?
yeah,
Couch
caught
surfing.
frogs and, threw rotten
Watch
tomatoes at each
paint
other.
dry.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, we won't get into stories, but I remember there was one Sunday in particular where it was a really bad snowstorm, and my parents just felt uneasy about going in, but they had to. But they left my brother and I at home, and I don't know how old I was, but my aunt lived behind Bell River High School, and I called her screaming and crying, and like I was so upset.
left me.
They left me at home. I was so devastated. Not one note, nothing. And this was in the 90s, so there's not, they don't have a cell phone. So my aunt came, picked me up, brought me to church, and then I walked over to my mom, and I remember this, like, she's walking up the hallway, and I'm just like, hello? Did you forget anybody? My brother is still happily sleeping, but she's like, Sarah, it was too dangerous. I didn't want you to come. But I remember just being like, why would you think I would be happy missing church? And that's still how I am today. Like, church is always number one.
Yeah.
It's always, not even church, but like being there, being with my family, like being with the church. That's where I want to be. And I always say, like, Sunday is my favorite day of the week. If I could just have Sunday every day, I'd be happy.
I love Sundays.
But it's like ingrained in my soul that, like, I don't see church as a, like in December I'm going to Florida with my parents, and there's going to be a Sunday that I'm going to be away, and I'm dreading it. I'm devastated. But it's, it's like, that's how I was raised.
Yeah, it's not an obligation to you.
It's not. I want to be there, So I think about that today. Like, if I miss church or something, I think there's been one time I've been sick since I've been at I-9, and it was awful.
Well, to kind of jump back into all that
Jump back.
story here,
Yeah.
we, one of the things that often is a progression for us as we're growing up is, what am I going to do with my life?
Yeah.
Some people are still asking, those questions, and just, but the journey of our lives is this is part of it. It's not just a final destination. It's about multiple destinations along the way.
It's the journey.
It's that journey, right?
Yeah.
Because in this phase of life, for instance, 15 years ago, there was a phase of life where you were, called to do this, and then that progressed into doing something in the next step, and then to the next step. And when you're younger, the way that we think about it is like, what is the one thing that I'm supposed to do in my life? And it's not always about a one thing, right? It's that journey process. And that was kind of, I think, one of the bigger progressions for me. Like, when I was growing up, when I was in school, and even up into university, I was planning on being a lawyer.
Yeah.
That was like a lot of my relatives in the States. They were all attorneys. I liked that background, and it was just something that completely was planning on going into. And then I think I got into like third or fourth year university, and all of a sudden I was just like, I don't want to be an attorney. And because I was planning to go to law school,
Right.
and then it was like from there it was like, what do I do?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, if I did this, I was good at it. And if I did that, I was good at it. And I remember, you know, I think we were shortly after we got married, you know, we were like 27 or something, and you know, we had went on this thing, you know, called an encounter weekend at the time, and it was all brand new. Nobody even knew what these things were. It was just like, you know, what are you gonna do? Oh, we're gonna go encounter God. And I remember going on this weekend, and it was like, you know, like teaching, and everyone, you know, gets all the stuff out of it. And I'm like, I don't remember anything. I didn't get anything out of anything. But I remember going with the purpose of, I'm like, I want to figure out why I'm here.
Yeah.
And when I was there, and I remember it was funny, you know, because I'm like having this kind of conversation with God, which I normally had the same conversation, because you know when you're trying to figure out your life, you're like,
hello, it's
like
me.
it's not like this is like a once in a year conversation, you know. This is a normal conversation that people have all the time. Like, God, what am I here for? And I remember sitting there, you know, in the bed at night, and I was having this conversation. And I remember God speaking to me, and you know, everyone expects, you know, these big like light bulb, you know. He typed out the letters onto the overhead screen, you know, and said, "Thou shalt be," you know, such. And it wasn't that. All it simply was he said, you already know.
Oh.
And it was like clear as day. It was just like, you already know.
I hear the disappointment and like, oh yeah. Like,
I hate that.
Yeah.
I would never trust myself.
and I remember it was interesting because it was like, you know, and I had, you know, I remember at one point in my life, like I had felt called into ministry, but growing up, there was you know, that degree where I was just like, I don't want anything to do with ministry whatsoever.
Yep.
And then anyways, and I remember, you know, even just, it was like another 6-7 years or something, you know, almost before I ended up getting into ministry. And I didn't tell anybody that I had any plans or wanting anything to do with ministry. I just continued my life as was. But I just remember at that point having a peace about, okay, this is kind of the progression. So I mean, that would be something I kind of could have told myself, my younger self, I think, and it maybe would have saved me some grief and heartache, was,
you already know.
You know, stop running from what you already know God's called you to do.
Yeah.
Right. And I've been through, you know, so anyways, then I got into ministry, but I remember, you know, like going back, you know, even a few years now, where it was just like, you know, there was such bad experiences in ministry, which is what I had seen growing up in my parents' household. Just you know, the bad side of ministry. You know, how people treat you, and the difficulties and all of that stuff. And I remember, you know, same thing. It was like a few years back. I was just like, I don't want anything to do with ministry. I had every plan not to be in ministry further in my life, and but God still has His own. You know, you can do what you want to do without God, or you can do what God wants you to do with Him. You know, but your life's going to be a lot better. You know, in God's will, and I have learned that in life. I would rather be in God's will. Because it's I know
fulfilling.
He'll be with me.
Yes.
Than be outside of His will doing my own thing.
And the difficulties are different. Like when you're in God's will and you encounter difficulties, it's like the enemy really trying to throw a wrench in your walk. And but God's grace is always there, and His grace is sufficient for us walking through it. So yeah, sometimes it can be painful, sometimes it can be hard, but there's so much joy, there's so much encouragement, there's just so much life in being right inside of God's will.
But I would just think about how worse everything, you know, in your life would be if you were outside of God's will.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I just think about, like, you know, in the middle of winter, like, remember when it gets like negative 40 degrees outside and it's
awful.
like it's freezing. And I remember walking to the bus stop, and because like they canceled school for a while, but then after a little while they're like, well, we still have to have school, so then they're making sure that the buses were going to be at exact times and stuff like that. And so I'm walking out, and I had proper clothing on for the negative 40-degree weather, and my kids as well. But there are other kids and parents that are walking that just like threw a winter jacket on type thing and tried to go with like no snow pants and stuff like that all the way to the bus stop, and they're exposed to the elements and they're unprotected there. And I think about that, and like being in God's will is like actually adequately having the preparations needed to be in the elements and to survive. And so I don't want to be outside of God's will and be like, you know what, yeah, it's negative 40 degrees outside, but I can wear a bathing suit outside, no big deal, I'll be fine, you know. And then you're walking around and your toes are turning black and they're falling off, and
you're stuck
you know,
in the belly of a whale.
You're stuck in the belly of a whale, you know, all these kinds of things.
Your
But
your skin's getting all away.
Our pets' heads are falling off.
pets' heads are falling off. But yeah, God's will is a great place to be.
Yeah.
So I always get that would be
That's
my
good.
the best advice as well. Right?
All right,
stay
so-
in God's will.
Yeah.
Stay in God's will. Don't screw up. And good luck.
Hey, good luck.
I marry Pastor Sherry.
No, you, Mary.
Not me. I'm good. I'm chilling.
That would be my voice.
You marry Pastor Sherry.
Hey,
Pastor Sherry.
He did.
Yeah. Me is like get hired by a
There was a movie,
Shimatero.
wasn't it? There was a movie called Inception or something like that, right? So I can just see that would be something Pastor Sherry, if she ever had a chance to time travel, that would be what she'd do. She'd just kind of put that seed inside, you know, my brain to be like, marry me.
I didn't have to do that. I just prayed. I was like,
She
God.
just showed up.
Yeah, I was just there in
She
my
didn't have
red
to do
dress with my
that.
long hair.
She had so much
in front
riz,
of
she
you.
just showed up.
I was just there at the party.
Yeah. She just knew it was a matter of time before you caved.
All right, what do we got
She
to
loves
wrap
that.
up here today?
Well, we can talk about Sunday.
Sunday.
If you want. We've got our
Sunday is Pastor
2024.
Sarah's favorite day of the week.
It is. Sunday. Happy Sunday.
All right.
So we have baby dedication this week.
Child dedication.
Child dedication. Well, they're all babies.
Yeah.
So
We still call it child dedication.
we do call it child dedication. So we have that. That's always an exciting time to be able to celebrate the next generation of I-9ers.
Yeah.
I love that. We
Me
got a good
too.
group too. I'm excited about. And then, what's the message about generations? Usually you talk about.
Well,
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned for more. That's all, folks.
The message is, I always find it interesting trying to do these messages because
You don't want it to be exactly the
He
same.
doesn't
every
like
single time.
repetitive.
I don't like repetitive messages.
Yeah.
It's
but-
like Mother's Day and Father's Day.
Yes.
Same
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, so I do struggle a little bit more writing them, but it's like typically like even when you do a child dedication service, it's like sometimes like, a lot of them when we were growing up, they were like a separate service that was just specifically for
Yeah.
child dedication.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was the same service pretty well over and over, you know, little
Yeah.
tiny, you know, things
Tweaks.
changing.
Yeah.
So I understand how simplistic that would be,
Yeah.
but when you're preaching it on a Sunday, I'm like, you know what, I don't want to sit and hear the exact same thing that was said
right.
every year at the same time. So, and nonetheless, there's principles in the
Trust me,
message which are
I'm
on
preaching with you.
dedication,
Yeah.
and there's on, you know, like, so those things are tied in. So there's parts of that, but the new nuance of this message is going to be on suffer the little children.
Okay. Interesting.
And so far, it has captured the progression of Pastor Sherry's thoughts, which means that we have the scripture verse. And I
Burn.
right before we came
Hold
up here to
on.
film this is right the part of the message where I was starting to develop on.
Oh, so it's our
was
fault.
Suffer the little children.
I love you a lot, and I had more than a scripture verse. If you'd like me to write the message, we can do that.
It's okay.
We, the proverbial.
proverbial.
I'm just meaning that when Pastor Sherry gives the concepts to the message, they're very short and brief.
Do you want to know a funny really quickly?
Except for the one that I'm working on right now.
Yeah, that's going to be a while before we
Ooh.
preach that one.
Oh, I thought you said it was going to be a wild one.
Oh, yeah, a wild one.
But you know what's
Wait, wanna hear
excellent
funny?
about that
Oh, okay,
part,
never
just so
mind.
you know, you can tell me, but
No,
the
funny.
excellent part is that her information is enough to give me starters
Yes.
to write things, which is a lot of times where I struggle is trying
Yeah.
to find a starter point.
And picking a service title is always hard, too. Do you want to hear a funny?
Yes.
Apparently, when I got dedicated as an infant, I screamed my little heart out. I hated it. was awful.
you?
And then Pastor Rick said to my mom, well, looks like we've got a preacher on our hands.
Oh, look at
Isn't that funny?
that.
Plot twist. I don't know if I'm a preacher or a teacher, but I think I'll take it either way.
Well, I think that, yeah, you're definitely a preacher.
I say things.
I say things.
Well, otherwise, youth is back up and running in full tilt.
Mm-hmm.
We've got, I've got a pretty full weekend, but it's not church stuff, just fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have to get into that. And then...
I'm not going to get into what they are, although they are on our kind of corporate schedules.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, tell us about your private life.
I'm just
No.
saying, we have a couple things that we've kind of introduced this fall that will be upcoming that
Yes.
I do think are going to be
Yes.
different for individuals, but
If-
I also think are going to be exciting. And
Here's my little,
Spoiler?
No, it's not a spoiler,
Not
but
a
it's a little
spoiler.
teaser and a little, precursor.
Okay, so spoiler.
Go and read
Oh.
the book of Revelation.
Oh, boy.
I'm not going to tell you specifically what part.
That's
but
the most
just
daunting
go
thing you
and
could say to
read.
someone in the Christian faith. We have some events upcoming, and we're not going to tell you anything about them, but read Revelations.
Revelations is so cool.
And read Isaiah and Job while you're at it.
yeah. Actually,
Suffering.
Isaiah.
Uh-oh.
This is the introduction this week. Suffer the little children.
Wait,
We're
Isaiah
gonna just-
58, Isaiah 59, Isaiah 60.
There was a verse in Jeremiah,
Book of Job.
and it says, in the latter days, you will understand it all. And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's all.
Like in Phantom of the Opera.
one day you're going to understand. One day it's going to make sense to you.
Titles and where we're going from.
I didn't say anything about
I'm
that.
just talking about there's a few interesting things coming up that people I think will enjoy, and
There is.
that there I guess is the end of the podcast.
I would agree.
All right, so
Which is, remember to
light the passion
light the
within
passion. By the way, why do we use that phrase? Do you know that?
you. So that
Because it was our mission statement, and you said we should say it more. Am I right?
That's pretty good. but why did we come up originally with light the passion?
Tell us, please.
No, I'm asking you.
Well, I think it's because we, since day one, you've said that you want our church to be, well, inspiration is the one thing. And you want us, your desire is that we're an innovative church, that we see things differently, that we don't just show up, but we're invested, and that we're committed, and that we're dedicated, and that we have a heart of passion. So I think when you say to light the passion within you, it's not just saying show up at church on a Sunday. It's saying find that thing that God has given you to help advance the kingdom of God, and do what you need to do to make it light.
the fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much.
1 Thessalonians 5:4. Pray continuously, or pray without ceasing.
Are you going to say our whole script that we had? There?
Just as a whole, right? It's just the same thing. It's just we need to do things with passion.
Yeah.
And fire catches.
And fire catches.
So
And
when we're
God
lighting
is
that
light.
passion inside,
Get that spark moving.
This is what conversation is like on a 24/7 basis over here. If you ever want to come over.
So remember to light the passion within you,
Yes,
and
sir.
we will see you again soon.
Yeah. Yep.
Have a great day.